Alright, hello everyone! So, I got a grand total of one question for this Q&A, so I kinda just filled in the rest with whatever sounded like an interesting question to ask and answer. Uh, so let's go ahead and do this. And before I begin, thank you to everyone for getting me to 100 subscribers. I hope you all continue to enjoy the content and come back for more. So, first off, Tower asked, what is my least favorite game of all time and why? Alright. Uh, so, my least favorite game of all time is a little game called Doki Doki Literature Club, which, if you haven't played it, is this anime styled dating sim styled game that I'm not going to say too much about for spoilers in case you want to play it, but I will say there's a content warning on it for a good reason, and I would recommend reading said content warning. I dislike it because I didn't do that, and yeah, you can all probably imagine how that ended up. So, next question. What are you currently reading slash have recently finished reading? I'm currently reading a book called The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. It's hopeful and wishful and sappy and sad and bleak all at once. The basic structure is that it looks at various things in the world and reviews them as a short 5-star review. Chapters range from Diet Dr. Pepper and Canada Geese to Humans' Temporal Range and Our Capacity for Wonder. It's a wonderful, thought-provoking book and well worth the read. I've recently put down, but still need to finish, a book called From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Doogie. It's all about funeral and death rites from around the world viewed through the lens of a dry-humored, somewhat sarcastic American funeral director. While it is a morbid book, it's a good look at how other cultures view death and passing beyond, and does a very good job of pointing out how in the U.S. we're very disconnected from death and the dead in a way that I didn't think about before reading it. 10 out of 10 would recommend both of these books. What is the closest thing to real magic? The obvious answer here is science. There's the Arthur C. Clarke quote of any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and, that's pretty close to true. But that feels like the cheap cop-out answer, so I'm gonna go with something else. I'm gonna say music is the closest thing to magic. Music is universal in a way that very, very few other things are. Even language isn't as universal or widespread as music. It's something that's like innate to us as people, and it's a way to share emotion that sometimes you can't even put into words. And it draws us in, it captivates us, and it triggers emotions and thoughts in ways that we don't expect or can't fully understand. And much like most magic and fantasy, there are rules and methods and tools to use and bend and break to get the impact and outcome we want out of music. Next question. What will finally break the internet? Tribalism and greed. Next question. What are the best and worst purchases you've ever made? The best purchase I've ever made is a weighted blanket. They're comfortable, they're heavy, they're worth every cent. Seriously, if you've never tried one, do so. They're amazing and warm and wonderful. I've seriously considered getting a second one just for my workspace in here, so that I don't need to carry the one I have from my bedroom when it gets cold in this frozen north where I live. My worst purchase, on the other hand, is probably this. This is the Shadowrun 5th edition core rulebook. And while I love Shadowrun's setting and its lore, and the video games that have been made of it are really good. Seriously, they're Magic Cyberpunk XCOM RPGs. What more do I have to say to convince you? The system itself is literally the most annoying system I've ever seen, and half the time it just feels like it's trying to be complicated for the sake of being complicated, which I don't understand the point. And really, if I wanted to run a Shadowrun game, I would just use the Fate system for the mechanics and rip the Shadowrun setting out for my home game. Anyways, what is your favorite board or card game? This one's annoying because it's asking me to pick my favorite thing out of a list of my favorite things. I'm honestly unsure, but at the time of recording, it's probably either Betrayal Legacy, which is the legacy version of the game Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is also a award-winning game that I would 100% recommend, or Carcassonne. Carcassonne I love because it's a perfect mix of simple mechanics and complex management that helps keep attention and make games interesting. Because you have all of these tiles that you have to connect either through you have to connect through matching them to each other. So you've got cities, you've got fields, and you've got roads. And once you place a tile, you can put a person, you can put one of these little people on it, but you only have so many people. And yes, we're missing one. That's why the ninja's there, so that someone can so that people can actually play yellow if they want. Don't ask questions. Uh, Dang it. Cable got caught and dragged my mic away. Oh no. But Carcassonne is simple enough that it's really easy to explain and to get into, but it's complicated enough to make it replayable even when you're an experienced player. And just, it's such a good game and so well built and so well made. And the other thing is, this was my first board game. Like, this was the first game that I got that and played for board games that wasn't, Monopoly or Life. Not to say that Life is bad. I am 100% saying that Monopoly is bad, because Monopoly is not actually designed as a board game, it's designed as a political statement. But, anyways, so Carcassonne was the first board game that I got that was like, oh, this is really, really fun. I want to keep playing this, and I kind of want to play other things like it. So this is the game that got me into board and card games, and yeah, I will always have a soft spot for it because of that. The other game I mentioned is this monstrosity. Yes, the box is that big. This is Betrayal Legacy. It is the Legacy edition of the game Betrayal at the House. I always say the. It is the Legacy edition of the game Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is fun, and it's this. So, Betrayal is an asynchronous game where you go and explore a haunted house before the haunt starts. And once the haunt starts, you're literally just characters in a B movie where one of you is the traitor. It's B movie horror film, the board game, where one of the players turns out to be to be in charge of the monster, and I love it. And it's so much fun. Betrayal Legacy takes all of that and adds legacy systems. For those of you who don't know what legacy systems are games that take things that happen in the game into effect as you play them. So, for example, there are cards in here that I'm not going to open the box because A, spoilers, and B, I'm desperately trying to not actually open this box when we're not playing it. Because I know myself well enough that if I open it now, I'm going to end up reading something I'm not supposed to. Because I like reading board and card games, which makes this one frustrating. Because I'm not supposed to read ahead. I'm not supposed to read everything that's in the game. So... But the thing about this game is that it responds as people win and lose the game. If you win, your side changes what comes out and what becomes the next thing to be added to Betrayal, to the game. And it has this progressing story of these families continuously going to this haunted house. And it's so much fun, and I love it. And I cannot wait to be able to finish the campaign. Flipping that question, what is your least favorite board and card game? I'm also a little bit unsure, but if I had to pick one, it's probably this. This is... We didn't playtest this at all. Which, while it's a kind of fun party game, it's very random and... just... It tends to be a insane level of either you can just win on turn one, or you'll die and the game will go on for another half hour because everyone else keeps slowly building up to victory, but you're just dead. And there's no balance, there's no, like, anything. It's just complete random shenaniganery. The only reason it doesn't actually beat out the Shadowrun book for worst purchase is we've gotten some good laughs out of this game, so I'm not willing to just completely throw it out, as worst purchase 0 out of 10 would not recommend. But it's not that great. The really weird thing is there's a very similar game on my shelf that fills a lot of those roles but is better in my opinion, and that game is this. Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards, Duel at Mount Skullsfire! Yes, that is the full title, and no, I will not be shortening it for the sake of the video. Well, we didn't playtest this at all, is full-on chaos, basically no strategy, and just luck of the draw. Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards, Duel at Mount Skullsfire! Has at least some planning and counterplay that can be done to achieve victory. Plus, we didn't playtest this at all, is a white box with white and black cards, and has no interesting aesthetics. Well, Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards, Duel at Mount Skullsfire! Has all of the ridiculous camp of an 80s cartoon set to heavy metal power ballads, and it's the most gloriously ridiculous thing. Plus, it's a game that literally says that there is a punishment that you can enforce punishments for not talking in a silly voice. Which is just the best thing ever. Or the worst, depending on who you are, but it's me, so it's the best thing ever, and I cannot be convinced otherwise. Next question. Do you play D&D? And if so, what's your favorite class? No, I don't play D&D. I just collect dice and pretend that I play it as an excuse to collect more shiny click-clacks. On a more serious note, yes, I do. And my favorite class is probably Rogue, but Artificer has been growing on me a lot recently, and I will always have a soft spot for Fighter. I love the just weird support of Artificer being able to just give people magic items in the early game, and even in the mid to late game still. I'm not quite the break the game through chaos minded person that most Rogue and Artificer characters tend to and players tend to fall into as the meme, but I like the support utility of both of the classes while still having that combat punch, even if Rogue's combat style is incredibly boring. And then sometimes you just want to do silly and cool things with weapons, which usually for me just means fighter. And our final question for this video, what is your favorite video game quote? So, I'm I'm still a sucker for the Parthenax quote, which is better, to be born good or to overcome evil through great effort. If I had to pick just one, that would probably be it. There's a couple of other quotes that always come to mind. Uh there's Lord Aldris in Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. No matter how tender, how exquisite, a lie must remain a lie. There's a couple of others that I do really like, but I do think that the Parthenax quote is probably my favorite out of all of them. So that'll about do it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all again for 100 subscribers. Holy crap, why do I have 100 people watching what I make? And I will see you all next time, and until then, good luck, stay safe, and don't die.